Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the part 2 of the garden box project. Last where I left you off, I was taking apart this old crate that I had laying around in the garden. I thought it would be a good color addition for the pallet wood that I'll also be using to kind of decorate the front of the garden box. I just used a claw tool and a hammer and just kind of pulled the slats off one at a time. Didn't take me too long, maybe a half hour to get everything off of there. So I had a piece of plywood laying around and I thought I would reinforce the bottom of this box because it is mostly made of particle board MDF. I don't want the dirt to push through and break through and ruin all of my efforts. So I wanted to shore it up, and so I had this particle board. Although it wasn't a whole piece, I was able to piece it together using some wood glue and my brad nail gun. Once I had a sturdy base created, I used more wood glue and just put it on the edges so that I could affix the new back to the box with, again, the brad nailer. And as you can see there, I already used wood glue. Alright, hopefully you guys can see what I did. I just piecemealed this together. This was just a piece of plywood we had laying around. Basically what I'm going to do is build a 2x4 base so that I can put some legs. So, kind of look like that. Now it's nice and sturdy. Spent no money on this project. All materials I had on hand. I'm putting all this effort and energy into this project. I want it to last a couple of years now, so I'm already invested in time. I might as well continue to invest in the time. That way I can, over the next couple of years, enjoy this thing. These pots I got from my neighbor. I got 6 of them, and they're gonna fit in here just as a liner, and then I'm gonna fill it with dirt and put my herbs in there. All right, you guys, can you see what I'm doing here? This is gonna be the very front of this box. So I'm just kind of selecting some pieces that I think might look cool. After the pieces were selected, I used our little circular saw with some ear protection and made some cuts to make them the perfect size. Now I was ready to put those pieces of pallet wood on with the brad nail gun, the DeWalt nail gun. I was able to affix them to the front to kind of give it a rustic barn look finish. I also used a little bit of wood glue to help give it some stability and help it stick. This was all for decoration, so I wasn't too concerned about having them be functional, just I wanted them to look cool. Just more wood glue and using the brad nailer to finish up the pallet wood, the decorative front. After I complete putting these pieces on, I will move to the sides where you get to see me use the slats that I took apart from the crate, and here you see me just measuring and making little cuts because this was on an angle, so I had to use my little jigsaw each time, and I would cut and glue and then use the brad nailer. I used little spacers that we had used for when we did our kitchen backsplash, just to give it a uniform spacing throughout. And then once I got all the way up to the top, I had to kind of eyeball it because the dimensions weren't perfect. But I was able to do a pretty good job of spacing it out so that I didn't have to cut one of those slats in half. Voila! I definitely like the way that looks. I decided to trim the top with the same material I used on the sides. I used my coping saw for this because they were a little bit more flimsy. So that will go there. I'm going to do a little wood glue. And a couple of brad nails. After I'm done the other side, I will cap it off with a big piece down at the bottom just to make it look finished. Even though it's really rustic and kind of unfinished, this is going to be awesome. I still have to drill holes at the bottom and build the base. In order to build a good base, you'll have to take some measurements at the top and at the bottom, and then both sides. Write your measurements down so you don't forget. And then after you've measured both the sides and the top and bottom, measure your piece of wood for the legs and the base, because in order to build that, you'll need to subtract the width of whatever legs you're going to use in order to build the box frame that I'm building. All right, guys, I'm gonna go outside and talk to Tom and see about how tall he wants this to be. Tom decided to give me a break and take over cutting the wood with the chop saw. We decided 29 inches should be the length of the legs. Here I used a pocket jig to put pocket holes into the frame so that I could attach it to the base of the garden table. Speaking of base, I used a big old drill bit and went ahead and drilled some holes into the bottom of this herb box. You can see from the inside that I kind of blew through a little bit because it is particle board, but I used this Flex Seal, sprayed it on the bottom all the way around to give it some protection. We are on to building the base now. I just used a little bit of wood glue and some wood screws and built the small sides first, then attached it to the longer sides, then attached both sides to each other, and realized at that time that this was a little bit shaky. I didn't want a shaky table, so I ended up having to use some construction screws to reinforce it and give it more stability at the end. Here you'll see I have a box and then they're 3.5 inches, made it sturdy. This is down to the final stretch here. Don't jump on me. No jumping. Please don't jump. At this point, I used some good old-fashioned sheetrock screws, my husband's favorite, to drill the base onto the actual garden box itself. The sheetrock screws have a little bit more bite. These 1-inch screws did the job. Holy smokes, this is heavy. Whew. Oh, ay caramba. Just repeat the process on the other side, making sure you get all 4 corners of the box secured with the sheetrock screws in this case. I just used some wood fill and plugged up those holes just to prevent water from getting in there. I'm not worried that it's not pretty, no one will ever see it. And here it is. I have pulled it off of the workshop table, brought it down, and I think it looks pretty cute. Let's get it outside and see what it looks like in the garden. I added some caster wheels I had laying around because I thought it would be easier to move once I got it out here. But here it is in its final resting spot. I went ahead and put some herbs in there. They're not dug in, just as a preliminary, just to show you what it might look like. I'm going to do another video after this to show you how to plant. I'm going to call it my mini potager garden. So stay tuned for that next video. If you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to my channel where I can bring you some more exciting DIY trash to treasure content. Share with your friends and family. Always come back and take a peek and see what I'm up to. And as always, thanks for watching.